When it comes to fault codes, all combi boiler manufacturers have huge problems trying to find out what's wrong. One of the most popular faults, of course, is going to be low water pressure. And in the world of Vaillant, that is F22, and that's why we called our app F22. And we've made a book full of fault codes for all the top 16 manufacturers. Almost every evening when I look at the Facebook forums, somebody's taken a photograph of a display or lights and saying, what's this fault mean? Well, chances are we've got it in there, but it means that that engineer has been there in the afternoon, and somewhere around 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the evening, they're asking for help. And that's quite normal. There's nothing wrong with that because it's almost impossible to solve that problem. But if we concentrate on just the low pressure F22, no manufacturer can put into the manual all the different faults and the errors surrounding that particular fault. Vaillant will say low pressure, which it may well be, and it usually is, as they all will do that. But they also put in there that maybe the pump is seized up or the lead goes to it. Other manufacturers will say, oh, also look at this or that. So what I'm trying to teach here for engineers is to look outside the box. Vaillant is saying it's a water pressure fault. So look at the gauge, maybe that's all that's wrong. But there may be other underlying problems as well. For example, there will be a water pressure switch in some boilers. Vaillant have got a sensor. Vaillant will have also a canoe, which is what we call these plastic canoes, and they get blocked up. They're only for the protection of the secondary heat exchanger, the plate-to-plate one. But if it gets blocked, you'll get an error code here, F22, you've got no water, which obviously isn't. It's just that the sensor can't see it. The first thing that's going to happen on most combi boilers, if you turn it on the heating, because that's where we test, the pump will run. If it doesn't reach maximum speed in a millisecond, the PCB will say you've got no water, F22. But of course we have, it's just not circulated fast enough because all these manufacturers have got very strict rules and regulations on when a component receives some information, a tap is turned on, to when it can fire up. And they're all got very short increments, so almost immediately the boiler fires up when we turn the tap on or flick the switch on the room's thermostat. If we go back to the older versions, perhaps this will explain. So this is a sort of a diaphragm underneath, and when the pump is activated, it pushes this upwards and makes the contact, and the PCB, etc., kick into action. And when the pump stops, the pressure decreases and everything goes back to sleep and standby mode. This is the, let's say, the old-fashioned way of doing it, and now of course we've got sensors. So what I've done is, on the Vaillant boilers, I've listed the top dozen or so most popular faults and tried to explain, to have a look to see what's actually gone wrong and what else to check. So if you have an F code that it says the fan, don't just think that the fan is dead or whatever. It could be the flue. It could be the gaps between the heat exchanger coils. If they've blocked up, that fan can't blow through it and go out through the flue. And you'll get an error code, the flue's blocked or the fan's broken. So if you understand what I'm saying, don't just look at one little thing. It's going to be no water, no fan, or lack of gas, whatever. You need to check all the different bits and pieces. So that's why I've made the video, and hopefully you'll improve your diagnostics. Another popular fault code is F28. And basically what that means is that there's something wrong to stop it not just firing up, but actually working. So it could be lack of gas or electricity or something else. And if you look in the manual, so this is an Ecotech 28, and if you look at F28, you can see there's a whole paragraph here. I'll do some close-ups so you can see exactly. There's a whole load of them. But also, F28 could be a frozen condensed pipe outside. And this happened a few years ago when we used to install these overflow pipes through the wall and down to the drain. And some installers would have a very shallow drop, and some boilers, they just trickle down, and if it's frosty, which is going to be December to March basically, it will gradually build up that layer and this pipe would freeze. So we would have to put hot, not scalding, but just hot water and try and de-ice the innards. But what I had to do, and what I was asked to do, was to change the pipes. So all of my installations, I changed it to this 30mm, which is used for basins. And you can see there's a lot of difference. So the chances of this freezing up is going to be quite small. And if there is a risk, obviously we would lag it in that respect. But this is an F28 fault. So if you see that in the cold months, I would be looking at this. And if this is still installed, then you need to remove this and change it for the bigger size. Nowadays, in 2020, 2021, these pipes go down into with the drainage in the house, so they don't go through the wall anymore. So look out for that. So remember, one F code can mean many completely different things, and I've given you the most popular two so far. To access the fault codes on this grey panel, we press the input information button and the minus button together, and as you can see here, it's scrolling and 76. We could also interact by pressing the plus button and then making note of all the fault codes. So if we look at 73, it tells us in the green book or the app, it's a water pressure sensor signal. It's in the wrong range because we've got no water in the boiler and it's picking this up. But it could also be that the boiler has got so much sludge that as soon as the pump kicks in, the water pressure sensor has not noticed it because it's blocked up, and therefore it's going to give us an error code that it's faulty. If we look at 76, that is the worst one. That really means we need a new boiler. And that's telling us that all these highly efficient pipes, all of these inside, are blocked. And the boiler has reached very high temperatures, possibly around 100 or even higher, in a short space of time. And to protect itself, the fuse is blown. And there is a fuse. If you look at the top of the boiler, you'll see here, there's a white plug and a black lead, and it goes all the way to the top of the machine, and it's there as an overheat. And if it fails, the fuse blows. And this is what it looks like. There's your plug, and here's your sensor, as we can see here, it's the fuse. Now, some people do try and sell them, but of course it's no good because the boiler's blocked up. As soon as you put it in, it'll simply blow again. It's not possible to clean it, therefore we just need to replace the Vaillant with a nice new Vaillant and make sure the whole system is flushed out. So that's how we do the fault codes. It's the I button and the minus button together. To access the fault codes on the latest blue screen boilers, then we simply have to press one of the four buttons to wake the screen up, press the two top ones for 1-2 seconds and release, and then with the plus button we're just going to go down to our usual installer level, which we are here, select, and now we have to change that by pressing the plus and go to number 17 as usual. So we just overshot a little bit, 17, we'll OK that, and immediately you can see we're in the fault code list. So now when we select this one, we will see the top 3 or the last 3, but it will go down to 10 as well. So if we look at that one, it says pump failure or water shortage. That was when I unplugged the pump. If we look at the next one, the other fault here was a start, F.22, so we need to look in the boiler and see that it's giving us the times and everything. And then the last one here that we had here was failed to ignite, and that's because I turned the gas off, and that's a very popular one. Lack of gas pressure is the most popular ones. Now, if you press delete, you will wipe out all of the error codes that were there. So please make sure that you write them down. But otherwise, if we go back, there'll be fault codes list, and we can keep going back, install a level, and then back to the beginning, and those codes will still be in the memory, so the next person who comes along can see what was done before, and then repair the boiler as before, as necessary. So I hope you've enjoyed this video on fault codes and how to access them onto the boilers.